Sometimes the smallest details carry the heaviest truths. A green toothbrush, a lipstick-stained wine glass, a weekend getaway that wasn't what it seemed. These tiny, almost insignificant clues slowly unravel a life you thought you knew. This is a story about noticing what's hidden, grappling with doubt, and navigating the delicate space between love, betrayal, and the quiet terror of realizing someone you trust is keeping secrets that could reshape everything. Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. I didn't notice it until Saturday morning, and even then, it didn't register as strange right away. Her toothbrush was still in the holder. But there was another one too. A green one. I use blue. Elise uses white. I stood there for a full minute, just staring at those bristles like they were accusing me of something. My first thought wasn't even that she was cheating. I actually wondered if I had bought a second toothbrush and forgotten. That's how far my brain has eroded lately. I second-guess my own memories before I question hers. She was supposed to be gone for the weekend. I need to get away, she said. I feel like I can't breathe in this house anymore. That was the phrasing. Can't breathe. Not can't breathe around you. Or can't breathe because of work. Just this house. Like the air here was poisoned. She said she was going to her sister's cabin. Just a solo weekend. No phone. No email. I just want to ride and hike and remember who I was before everything got so tight. Tight. She always talks like that when she's planning something. Vague words. Foggy metaphors. Like if she keeps the language soft enough, I won't notice the hard edges underneath. But I noticed the toothbrush. And then I noticed the wine glasses. 2. One with a lipstick smudge. One without. We don't even drink red wine. Not unless someone brings it over. Elise says red gives her headaches. And I drink beer. Cheap, stupid beer. I have never once opened a bottle of red wine in this house. I don't even know where the corkscrew is. So, either she's suddenly changed her preferences, or she had company. You ever have one of those moments where your body reacts before your brain catches up? I suddenly realized I was sweating, like full back sweat mode, just from standing in the kitchen and looking at wine glasses. I didn't know what to do. I don't know how normal people react when they think their spouse is lying to them. I didn't go through her things. I didn't drive up to the cabin. I didn't call her sister. No. I sat down, opened my notes app, and started writing a list of questions I wanted to ask if this turned out to be something real. Here's what I wrote. Why was there another toothbrush? Who drinks red wine here? Have you ever lied about going to the cabin before? Do you think I'm stupid? And then, underneath all that, I wrote, would you have told me if I hadn't noticed? Because that's the part that broke me. I think she wasn't going to say anything. I think she wanted me to notice something eventually, like she was testing how far she could go before I finally said, hey, what's going on? But I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not Sunday either. She came back late Sunday evening, and I pretended to be asleep on the couch when she walked in. She smelled like pine needles and car air freshener. She kissed me on the forehead and whispered, still you, like I was some dog that had stayed loyal by the door. I still didn't ask about the toothbrush. Instead, I got up Monday morning and packed a bag. I didn't tell her where I was going, just said I needed to clear my head too. She nodded. Not a tear, not a single protest. Just a quiet, take your time. But here's the thing. I didn't go to a cabin. I didn't check into a hotel or call a friend. I went to my mom's basement. I'm a grown man. I pay taxes. I drive a hybrid. I own matching towels. But I slept under a Star Wars blanket and cried into a stuffed Ewok I hadn't seen since high school because my wife might be in love with someone who owns a green toothbrush. And I still haven't confronted her. But I am writing this. Because if I say it here, if I get it all out in one place, maybe I can finally figure out who I'm really mad at, her or me. The next morning, she made pancakes. I know that sounds harmless. Sweet, even. But Elise never makes pancakes. She's always said they're too doughy and make her feel slow. We do eggs and toast, yogurt and fruit. She hates syrup. So, when I walked into the kitchen and saw her standing there, hair up, spatula in hand, humming something tuneless, my first thought wasn't, ah, how nice. It was, what the hell is she making up for? She didn't even look up. Just said, hope you're hungry. I wasn't. But I sat anyway. And I watched her flip pancakes like she hadn't just vanished for 72 hours with a toothbrush mystery and a man named Ben possibly breathing her air. She talked about birds. Birds. Said she saw a hawk snatch a squirrel by the lake, and it made her weep for the food chain. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded and chewed a piece of burnt edge like it was bark. I asked her if she wrote anything, since she said she wanted to get back into journaling. She blinked, said, "Not much," then changed the subject to how she'd been thinking of painting the bathroom soft rust. Is that even a color? That whole morning, I kept waiting for her to say something. Anything. To admit she hadn't been alone. To mention the green toothbrush. To explain the second wine glass. Even a badly staged lie would have been something I could grab onto. But no, she acted like everything was normal. And that's what made it worse. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe I had bought that extra toothbrush. Maybe I'd poured the wine and forgotten. Maybe I was unraveling, and she was the only thing holding me together. So that night, I did something weak. I went through her bag. Not proudly. I waited until she was in the shower, humming again. Some folk song she used to sing when she was stressed. I unzipped her travel duffel like it might explode. Inside, socks, leggings, a book she didn't read, bookmarks still on chapter 1, and a receipt from a gas station 2 hours north of where her sister's cabin is. A place we've never been. And there it was, a second toothbrush. Green. Still damp. I zipped it back up. She came out in her robe, saw me sitting stiff on the edge of the bed, and smiled like nothing was wrong. Kissed me on the cheek, and said, "I'm glad you're here." I wanted to say, "But where were you?" But I didn't. I just stared at the wall and nodded like a coward. Tuesday morning started with the usual routine. She took the car, I took the bike. She kissed me on the cheek, told me not to work too hard, and vanished down the street in a cloud of vanilla perfume and brake dust. I stood in the hallway a moment longer than usual, staring at the door like it might creak open again and reveal this was all just some elaborate, awful misunderstanding. It didn't. On my way out, I grabbed the travel mug she always forgets on the counter. I was going to rinse it, maybe take a sip if it wasn't too stale. But when I unscrewed the lid, something clinked. Inside, folded in half, stuffed beneath a soggy napkin, was a receipt. I pulled it out with shaking hands. It was damp, curled at the edges, but still readable. A receipt from a place called Finch's Roost. Not a coffee shop. A bed and breakfast. In Red Hook, which was the opposite direction of the lake. 2 nights. Queen's Suite. 1 guest name listed, Ben Salter. I remember standing there, staring at the name like it was printed in flames. Ben Salter. Not Mr. and Mrs. Salter. Not guest, Elise. Just him. No mention of her. But I knew. I knew. I looked it up on my phone. Finch's Roost was cozy. Romantic. Candlelit dinners and unplugged getaways. Photos of clawfoot tubs and vintage quilts. Not the kind of place you go to ride alone in nature. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't even change out of my bike shorts. I just sat on the floor with that receipt in my hand, scrolling through the B&B's tagged photos like some kind of obsessed teenager. No sign of Elise. No sign of Ben, either. But the whole thing made my skin crawl. By lunchtime, I was still on the floor, and I had decided I was going to call the place. Just casually. Say I lost something. Or that I was doing a surprise for my wife. Something to get them talking. I rehearsed the call 3 times before dialing. A woman answered. Perky voice. Too chipper. Hi. This is kind of weird. I began, but I think my wife might have left something in your Queen Suite over the weekend. I'm just trying to double check if. Oh, you mean Elise? She said immediately. I froze. Oh yeah? Elise. I repeated, hard in my throat. She and her partner were lovely. They left early Sunday morning. She said they had a long drive ahead. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. I hung up. No goodbye? No thank you. Just click. I couldn't even process it. She'd lied about the cabin. She'd lied about being alone. She'd lied about everything. And she hadn't even tried to cover her tracks. That night, I didn't confront her. I made dinner. I asked her how her day was. She said it was chill, that she had a lot on her mind. I asked her if she wanted to watch something. She said, not really. I asked her if she was happy. She said sometimes. And that was the worst part. Not the lies. Not the receipt. Not even the name Ben Salter. It was that sometimes. Because it meant there were still times, rare, maybe, when she looked at me and saw someone worth staying for. And I wasn't sure if that made things better, or so much worse. The thing about Elise is that she's not careless. She doesn't leave receipts in mugs. She doesn't forget names. She doesn't get caught. Which is why I started wondering if she wanted me to find that receipt. It haunted me the entire week. Every time she spoke, I wondered if she knew that I knew. And every time I didn't say anything, I felt like I was slowly shrinking inside my own body. By Thursday, I had convinced myself I was being emotionally blackmailed by silence. Her silence. Mine. We still did all the usual things. Ate together, sat on the same couch, went to sleep on the same mattress, but there was a 5% gap in every interaction. A space between our words where truth used to live. And that's where I started living, too. In that 5%. That night, I stayed up after she fell asleep, just laying there next to her, wide awake, listening to her breathe. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel suspicious. I felt replaced. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours, then quietly got out of bed, tiptoed to the living room, and opened her laptop. Yes, I know how that sounds. I don't care. I wasn't trying to find anything specific. I just wanted to confirm what I already felt in my bones, that I wasn't crazy. Her browser was clean. No social media, no messages, no bookmarks, no suspicious tabs. It was almost too clean. Except for one thing. An untitled Google document. I opened it. At first, it looked like a poem. But as I kept reading, I realized it wasn't fiction. It was a list. Things to say if he finds out. It was just emotional. It's over. You stopped seeing me a long time ago. I didn't mean to hurt you. I still love you, but not like before. Each one hit like a hammer. At the very bottom, she had written, "Don't say anything unless you're sure. Don't ruin both lives if you're not 100%. I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark for a long time, realizing I wasn't 100% sure of anything anymore, except that she was already gone. And I was still here, clinging to the last 5%. The next day, I put on a show. I told Elise I was taking a last-minute trip. Work-related. One of those annoying regional trainings, I said while tossing random clothes into a gym bag. I even printed a fake itinerary and left it on the kitchen counter like I was some kind of amateur actor in a low-budget spy movie. She barely reacted. "Okay," she said, sipping coffee. "Drive safe. No follow-up questions. No, will you be back Sunday?" No curiosity. Just a nod, a smile, and back to scrolling on her phone. That moment did something to me. Something small but sharp. Because I think she already knew I wasn't going anywhere useful, and she didn't care. The second I was out of the driveway, I looped around the block and parked 2 streets over. I waited. I watched. Not proud of it. But at that point, pride was way down the list of things I cared about. For 2 hours, nothing. Then at 11:42 a.m., a car I didn't recognize pulled up. Silver Honda. Tinted windows. License plate slightly bent on one side. She came out in a long sweater and boots, holding the same overnight bag she'd used for her solo weekend. Got into the passenger side like she'd done it before. No hesitation. No check over her shoulder. They didn't pull away fast. Just smooth, casual, familiar. Like routine. I didn't follow them. I could have, but I didn't. I already knew what I'd see. Instead, I went back inside. The house felt different now. Staged. Like it wasn't really mine anymore. Like I was walking through a museum exhibit labeled Functioning Marriage, 2018 to 2025. I sat at the dining table, next to the fake itinerary, and stared at the spot where her coffee mug had been. A faint ring on the wood, like proof she still existed. And then I did something that, in hindsight, scares me more than anything. I Googled how to pretend everything is fine. That exact phrase. There were articles, forums, videos, pages of people pretending for their kids, their spouses, their coworkers, themselves. I read a dozen entries before realizing I wasn't looking for help. I was looking for permission. Permission to keep playing the game. To keep the lights on. To keep smiling through it. But that's not what I found. Instead, I found a post. Short. Just one sentence. If you have to pretend, you've already lost. I closed the laptop. I went to the bedroom. And I packed a real bag this time. I didn't run. I didn't confront. I didn't scream or break dishes or go on some righteous tirade like you always think you'll do in these moments. No. I booked a room at a cheap motel off Route 7, left my phone in the glove box, and sat on the scratchy bedspread wondering who I was without her lies to orbit around. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and unresolved divorce. I stared at the popcorn ceiling for hours. Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't cry. Just sat there feeling like I'd been quietly evicted from my own life. I was more ghost than man. A placeholder for someone she used to need. But that night, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went out. Not to a bar, not to drown the pain in cheap whiskey, but to a little Italian place across the road. It was nearly empty. A single waiter, an old couple in the corner, and a man sitting alone at table 9. He was wearing a gray jacket and scrolling his phone like he didn't want to be there either. We made eye contact once, briefly. He nodded. I nodded back. I ordered spaghetti and couldn't taste it. My mind kept looping back to Elise, to the green toothbrush, to her saying, "Drive safe," like she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror, to that receipt, to the Google document, to her silence, to my silence. Halfway through the meal, the man at table 9 stood up and walked over. "I don't mean to bother you," he said, polite, cautious, like he knew I was barely stitched together. "But are you okay?" I should have lied. Should have said, "Yeah, just a long day. Thanks for asking." But something cracked open in me right then, like a seal breaking. "I think my wife's in love with someone else," I said. It was the first time I said it out loud. He didn't flinch, just looked at me, then slowly sat down across from me like we were old friends reconnecting after years apart. He didn't ask for details, didn't offer advice, just sat there while I talked. About the fake trip, the toothbrush, the receipt, the list of excuses she was ready to use. About pretending not to notice how distant she was, how small I'd become. When I was done, he nodded and said, "You're still here. That means something." I didn't even get his name. He left before dessert, paid for both our meals, and disappeared into the night like some minor character written in for exactly one scene of my life. But the weirdest part? Talking to that stranger helped more than anything Elise had said in weeks. Because he didn't lie. He didn't pretend not to see me. He looked at me like I was real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I might be. 2 days after the dinner with the stranger at table 9, I went back home. Elise was in the garden when I arrived, trimming dead leaves off the lavender like she hadn't just spent the weekend with another man. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, you're back early," like I had returned from an actual trip. I nodded, kissed her on the head out of reflex, and went inside, suddenly aware of how false everything had become. That night, I didn't ask her anything. I didn't mention the receipt, or the Google Doc, or the woman from the B&B who said her name without hesitation. I didn't bring up Ben, or the toothbrush, or the way she didn't ask me a single question about my trip. Instead, I made us both tea, and we watched a documentary about wolves. She fell asleep 20 minutes in, head tilted against my shoulder. I didn't move. I sat there holding a half-empty mug of cold chamomile, feeling like the last intact piece of something that had already shattered. The next morning, I started packing boxes. Not loudly, not obviously, just small things, one at a time. A drawer here, a shelf there, books she never touches, sweaters she hasn't noticed in years. I didn't even know where I was taking them at first, just that I had to get them out. Out of the house, out of this air. I drove them to a storage unit across town. Rented it under a fake name. Paid 6 months up front. Every time I locked it, I felt a little lighter and a little more insane. There was no big plan yet. No confrontation speech. No emotional purge. Just quiet movement. A gradual retreat. And every night, I came back and smiled like everything was still fine. One evening, I left my keys on the kitchen counter by mistake. Not my house keys. The ones to the storage unit. Elise picked them up and asked what they were for. "Old gym locker," I said, and she didn't question it. That's when I realized I could vanish from her life without her ever noticing, if I did it slow enough. Later that night, I stared at her while she slept and wondered if she was doing the exact same thing to me. If she'd already packed parts of her life into another man. If I was the last box she hadn't gotten around to moving yet. I don't know if that thought terrified me more than it comforted me. But I do know this. I was getting good at disappearing. And I don't think she noticed at all. It happened on a Sunday. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, hair messy, slicing oranges like we were just two people in a calm life again. There was music playing low on the speaker, Fleetwood Mac, I think, and for a second, I forgot we were broken. She turned around and caught me staring at her. Not in an angry way, not even sad. Just quietly watching, like a man seeing someone he once loved across a train station. Familiar, but impossibly far. "Elise," I said carefully, "I know about Ben." She stopped, didn't look shocked, just still. "I know about the bed and breakfast, the second toothbrush, the wine, the list of lies in the Google document. I know you haven't been alone, not really." She didn't speak right away, just placed the knife down gently, like any sudden movement might cause the house to collapse. Then she said something I never expected. I ended it. The words were soft, fragile, like they barely survived the trip from her mouth to my ears. I told him last week. I couldn't keep it going. It wasn't love. It was just a mirror. I thought I was seeing myself again, but it was just a reflection of how lost I was. I didn't move. I was waiting for you to say something, she added. And when you didn't, I thought you were already gone. But then I found the empty drawers. The books missing. The socks that never came back from the laundry. I knew you were slipping away too, just slower than I was. We stood in silence. Then she walked to the table and sat down across from me. I don't want to lie anymore, she said. Not to you, and not to myself. If you're done, I'll understand. But if there's anything left, anything real, I want to try. Not just patch it up. Start again. Like two people who actually want to be here. I looked at her, and for the first time in months, she wasn't hiding behind half smiles or carefully edited words. She looked scared, human, honest. I didn't have a perfect answer. No dramatic speech. No romantic monologue about forgiveness or healing. But I sat down across from her. I reached across the table and took her hand, and for the first time, she didn't flinch. Let's talk, I said. Really talk. Not just about what we did. About what we want. She nodded. Eyes wet. No makeup. Just her. That day, we didn't fix everything. But we opened the window. We let the air back in. We said the ugly things. We listened. We argued. We cried. And when the sun went down, we were still at the table. Still there. Still trying. And somehow that was enough. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.